So just like you get private schooling and private healthcare, private policing is a huge deal in this country. How huge? Well, upwards of 40 billion rand a year and 2 million active and inactive officers. Huge. And the recent violence and looting in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng is just one example where the private security industry has shown its mettle. Private security firms deployed massive human resources, weapons, armored cars and helicopters to guard their clients' properties. Of course, the dark side of the industry has also been highlighted during that period. Let's discuss the industry's role in the fight against crime. Conrad van Rooyen from Bicasec Risk Services joins me now to discuss this aspect. Conrad, as I say, it is a massive industry, but you would know better than I do. How big is the private security industry in South Africa as we speak in 2021?
Thulasizwe, good morning. Yeah, it's quite large. At this point, I think it's 1 to 4 to the police, the SAPS, active members deployed in the field with the vehicles, the backing and so on. So it is quite large. We've got it's a big industry on its own. And it's on an annual, it keeps on growing. For the sector of what do you say? How can you say it? For the peace of mind of South Africans to have safeguard their houses and their businesses. So it's definitely on the increase with private security, the guarding services, armed response, even private protection, close protection at this point. We've seen in the last few months it's an increase for general crime and protection.
What's driving the growth, Conrad, from your perspective? What are some of the key drivers? Is it a state failing to fulfill at least one of its responsibilities, ensuring that people are and feel safe? And the feel part of it I emphasize because from what you just said a few moments ago, it would seem to me that also the mindset of South Africans, this feeling of being under siege, also contributes to this feeling of being unsafe.
Yeah, no, I think with the increase is directly linked to the peace of mind of South Africans to feel safe at your house, of your place of business. And to be able to rely on, say, pressing your panic button and getting a response or phoning someone and they're showing up. I think it's the drive behind the growth is mainly, I think, peace of mind for your general crimes. But also, you want to feel protected. If you stay in a state, you want to feel protected. If you stay in your household, a freestanding house, you want to feel protected. You want to know that there's going to be someone looking after you and your family if in the event that something happens. And with that being mentioned, I don't think that the South African police has got the capacity at this point to do their job as they are mandated and protect everybody. When you do phone them, you hope they come, and when they come in a timely manner. I think that drives the growth with the private security at this point.
Tell me about the growing trends, Conrad. You mentioned close protection, and I can mention without mentioning names that there's a professional that I sometimes interact with when I'm down in KwaZulu-Natal who has close protection in an industry that ordinarily, you wouldn't expect that this is someone whose life would be under threat to the extent that they need to have someone almost becoming their shadow. Everywhere they go, this person is there. But such is our reality. Babita Deokaran's killing, for example, also reminds us that perhaps we might want to think about those issues of close protection and personal protection. But is personal protection the one that's growing the most, or are we seeing, for instance, in the wake of the looting and violence, more protection needed for, I don't know, the haulage trucks on the main routes in the country?
Yeah, I think the close protection at its own is not the fastest growing, I'd say. It is growing. It was in the past always for only the elite, and now it's moved to your average guys that can. Unfortunately, it is an expensive service to have, but it's not. It's becoming more affordable for your average business owner, your average business that moves around, especially guys that deal with cash and so on. In regards to the trucking industry, I know that with the increase in escort services, so the guys having escort vehicles following them, or having armed guards on the trucking and so on. It's also, they want to make sure that the goods are transported and that the employees driving the trucks are safe, that they get to the destinations. I mean, you've got the insurance for the goods on the vehicles, but at the end of the day, you do need to look after your employees that's actually driving the vehicles. And yeah, so there's definitely with an increase in the escort services for looking after your goods in transit.
So lastly, Conrad, just your thinking about the sustainability of this model, whereby a large chunk of what is supposed to be the state's responsibility is actually parceled out and handed over to the private sector. I can tell you now, in the 3 or 4 years that I've lived in my neighborhood, I've only seen a marked SAPS car just twice patrolling in that area. So I have to wonder then, how sustainable is this model? Or do we end up with a situation where, we all retreat to our lagers and there's private policing for those who can afford it, heavily armed, with the result that occasionally you hear about the dark side of the private security industry, as we saw with recent reports out in KwaZulu-Natal?
Yeah, Thulasizwe, I think at this point, for the average household, it became a necessity to budget for security, made beyond response or guarding services, as you listed as part of your groceries. But that would be for your middle class and upper class. So for the lower class citizens, it's problematic. They can't afford on response in the areas they stay. And it's supposed to be the state that looks after the guys. Luckily, in the area we are operating, the SAPS is quite visible. They work quite closely. We work closely with them and vice versa. So we're quite fortunate to be in the area we are at. I know there's obviously areas that you don't have that efficiency in the police, and then obviously there's a deficiency with the security services because there's no money to pay for the security services. Unfortunately, for that we are still private companies that needs to make money, and we need to invoice someone for the services. And I mean, obviously, I think there is a deficiency between what we give the middle class, upper class, can you say, and the lower class, what they require from the state to look after them. There is the good initiatives from the CPFs and so on that works closely with the SAPS and private security that they do look safeguard the lower end communities. But yeah, it is a problem, and I don't think it's going to be sustainable as the cost of living is going up. You're going to need to choose between protecting yourself or getting food on the table. So I think it is a massive problem at this stage. Yeah.
Sure. All right. Thank you for your insights there, Conrad. That's Conrad van Rooyen from Bicasec Risk Services. He was weighing in on the situation around the growth of the private sector and the increasing role that they are having to play and basically pick up the mantle from where, the state seems to be failing.